what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm Ben, but today you're actually going to be hearing from my dad here on the channel. We call him Jerry. He purchased my Tenere 700 that I built after I purchased it back in 2020. It was the first motorcycle or vehicle of any type that I purchased brand new. It was sort of my first big investment into this channel. It was not something that I was really ready to let go yet, so selling it to my dad I think just ended up being sort of perfect for me. Definitely a bike that I still feel a bit attached to and really did enjoy riding. Actually had Anago Yamaha replace the tires on it before I ever even picked it up. The stock Pirelli Scorpions might be okay if you're going to be doing a lot of road riding and just a little bit of gravel riding, but we tend to end up in places with a lot of mud, and without any real lateral traction, the Scorpions just weren't going to cut it. Back then, there weren't really any options for crash protection either, so when I first picked it up, I knew I was headed straight to the mud. So I went with a set of Motaz Tractionators. That was my first experience with Motaz, and now they're essentially my go-to tire option if you don't mind spending a couple extra bucks. Otherwise, the Tusk tires that I've been running on my bikes now are definitely a great option. Maybe not quite so for such a big bike, but the Motaz tires definitely never did me wrong. My dad actually still has the stock Motaz tire on it, which now has over 7,000 miles on it. The front one did cup out a bit early, and we swapped it out for another Motaz tire, a different one. And if you guys are interested, we do have videos on that, as well as all of the other stuff that I did to this bike. I can put a playlist along with some affiliate links down in the description, and if you use those affiliate links, it doesn't cost you guys anything extra, but I definitely appreciate it because it's one of the main reasons that I was actually able to take this YouTube channel full-time this year. So huge thanks to you guys that take the time to use those when you're buying any motorcycle gear. As far as other mods, I did the RNG case covers, I did the RNG radiator cover, the Camel ADV high fender kit. We since have switched back to the low fender, just makes it ride a little bit better on the highway. We also did the high fender mount lights from Cyclops that mount right to the Camel ADV high fender mount. We also did the Camel ADV anti-bobblehead kit, which sort of keeps the screen from fluttering around. It also sort of shored up the headlight because it sort of attaches those two things together. We had absolutely no issues with that, and I wouldn't anticipate any. I think if anything, it probably is going to save you maybe some issues with that dash rattling around all the time. Definitely makes it a lot nicer to look at. The stock bars ended up being a little bit too straight for my wrists and my frame size. So rather than riding around with my wrists like that all the time, I swapped the bars out for the Tusk Chub bar in a YZ bend that just has a little bit more sweep on it and is definitely something that I would recommend. I went with the Tusk D-Flex Adventure handguards, another thing that I put on just about all of my bikes. Adds lever protection, adds hand protection, sort of stiffens up the bars a little bit too so you don't get quite as many vibes. As far as crash protection for the rest of the bike, as soon as Dirt Racks, which is a company up in Canada that I've worked with quite a bit, as soon as they came out with their front crash protection, I put that on the bike. It's a nice low profile design, always did a great job. I also put their rear rack on the bike, which integrated really nicely with their sort of heavy duty soft luggage pannier racks. Never had a problem with any of it. Definitely took a couple falls when both my dad and I were riding the bike out on the sort of nasty single track trails that we tried to make this bike go down. And speaking of crash protection, the Camel ADV high exhaust mount kit I think is probably one of the most important things other than tires that you can do to this bike to sort of off-road proof it. The stock hanger and exhaust is just too far out and too far down and can very easily be bent into the swing arm. And if you don't notice it, because the exhaust is steel and the swing arm is aluminum, it'll actually shave metal right off your swing arm, which of course is not a good thing. And if you bend it in and out enough times, it can actually snap off of the frame because it is just welded to the frame, and then the subframe is welded to the main frame. So technically, if you break that off, you have frame damage, which is not a good thing. And to go along with that more open exhaust, I also installed a uni high flow air filter as well as a more open air intake. And because of those mods, I wanted to match the fueling, so I took the ECU out and sent it to Two Wheel Dyno Works in Washington for them to reflash. So that made adjustments for the mods and also sort of cleaned up the throttle a bit so it's not as jerky. And probably my favorite part of it, honestly, was the fact that it would now make the radiator fan kick on at 200 degrees rather than the ridiculous 210 or 220 that Yamaha had it set at originally. Also did the Camel ADV bash plate, which is definitely a very protection-oriented plate. My dad seems to think that it's a little bit more of a hassle to take off to change the oil, but for me and my intents and purposes, it was definitely something that I appreciated appreciated having on the bike. Because I'm 5'10" with a 31-inch inseam and only weigh about 155 pounds, I did have a little bit of an issue getting my feet to the ground on this bike, so I did try out the Seat Concepts low comfort seat, and it definitely helps you get a little bit closer to the ground. The issue is if you are just straddling the seat and not sliding off one way or the other, the seat and bike are still so wide that your legs kind of have to go out before they can go down. So it didn't really get me a whole lot closer to the ground, but my dad doesn't seem to have too much of an issue with it. He's maybe a half inch or an inch taller than I am. So definitely something that I think is good to know that it's out there, because this is a pretty heavy bike, but that, of course, all depends on what type of bike you came from, what your frame size is, and where you plan on riding the bike. I also did the Camel ADV tail tidy, and I put some much smaller turn signals on it. I went with the Tusk Mini Stocks, which aren't the nicest or the most expensive turn signals out there, but if you're going to go with budget LED turn signals, I would budget for at least these. They definitely have a nice bright flash. They're large enough to see. You might want to stick a little bit of silicone in some of the cracks just to keep the water out of them, but I've never really had too much of an issue with them. So if you guys want to check all that stuff out, again, there'll be links for all that stuff down in the description, as well as a playlist for all the install videos. I always enjoyed this bike. I really still enjoy riding it on the road, and it is a fun bike to have, especially on the trails that you'll see my dad take it through today. However, I definitely have noticed some very nice positives about the new bikes that I've been riding, which are all big bore dual sports. If you guys are interested in those videos, I'm building an XR and a DR, and I might purchase a Gen 1 KLR. But for now, let's hop on the Tenere 700 with my dad and see what he thinks about it after about a year of ownership and somewhere around 2,000 or 3,000 miles. Take it away, Jerry.
So here we are on the Tenere 700. I've owned this bike for about a year now, and I guess to me the biggest question I would ask somebody if I wanted to know about ask them about a motorcycle is, would you buy it again? And the answer would certainly be yes. And I might have said that about my Tiger 800 XC as well, because I really did enjoy that motorcycle, but this one is definitely better off-road, which to me is a little bit more important because I'm getting a little too old for dumping bikes out on the trails, at least as often as I dump that one. I had a great time on that bike, but it's just kind of a relief to get on this one. It's just off-road is a lot easier. I don't hang onto the bars half as tight, and there really is no bike I would rather be riding right now than this one. The V-Strom 800, I haven't really heard anything exceptional about that one. I know it's probably a little better on the road, as is the Translap. As far as road, yep, Tiger was better on the road. It was basically a little crotch rocket you could, take on trails, where this one is not. I mean, it's got good handling on the road. It does fine. I don't know if I'll ever take it over 85 miles an hour because it gets a little squirrely, which I'm really surprised at. I don't know what causes that, if it's a stretched out wheelbase or what it is, but I'm on my second pair of tires and it's the same thing. I had high hopes that I was gonna get on the highway and I could do 110 if I wanted to, but and maybe I'll get there. But right now, when you start going over 85, she really seems a little squirrely. Going down the road's fine, but if I had to do some evasive maneuvers, I would not want to do it on this bike at 85 miles an hour, because it just doesn't feel right. If you're going to travel 75, this bike would be great. And I do plan on taking it to Montana this year, later in September. I'll hopefully go to Yosemite if they can pack one more tourist in there, and maybe camp. I'm not sure. See how it goes. I'm pretty freewheeling on trips, and it works really well for me. But yeah, highway performance is fine. Trail is better. Not quite as good as what Ben's on right now, or the DR650. Those are really easy bikes to ride off-road. Ooh, bug to the forehead. Good. Yo! I rode the XR on the highway today at 75. There's a lot of vibration in your butt. I don't know if I'd want to ride that thing for 2.5, 3 hours. Doesn't feel that planted on the road like this one does, but it does fine. Not as good as the DR. I think the DR is better on the road. Mosquitoes are bad again. We got a lot of rain lately, so it'll be interesting to see what this trail is like. Headlight must be on. Traction control must be off. Ben's trying to keep his clean, whereas I am not. Woo! Whoa, she's a little washed out, I think. Winding trail, is there any other kind? Not out here. Whew. Yeah, this thing is really nice in sand. Hate to keep peeking on the Tiger, but sand and mud, oh boy. Especially with a rut or two mixed in. We're super stressful. And maybe a better rider could compensate for that, but I think I got pretty good on that bike. My back tire is a little lacking. It's time for a new one. This one's fine for the road, but I definitely need something better for this. Oh, I'd love to jump over that, but your bones take longer to heal when you get older. Might go into ski season. That would be bad. Not to mention motorcycle season. My wife said, "Be safe out there." I said, "There's nothing safe about riding a motorcycle." She missed the humor in that. Woo! Woo! That was fun. Partially because my back tire slipped out because it's too wore down. Oh! Isn't this lovely? I'd love to wipe out in those rocks. What a wake-up call that would be. Oh! Yoo-hoo! One thing about the T7, you can slide it around at any speed. Now what are we up to? Oh, he's just waiting for the old man. Oh, look at that. Pretty. Oh, Ben went airborne. I saw that. Yeah, right on the corner. I don't think so. Well, it's not much of a corner.
We could do just a little more too and then get off at a different road and head back, but
Yeah, a little more would be okay.
okay, yeah, let's keep going then.
We're gonna do a little more riding. Ben wanted to quit. He's on that little mini bike, but I wanted to go for a little while longer. Haven't got that many years left. My plan is to keep riding smaller dirt bikes as I get older, and I have to. And pretty soon, my theory is if I keep getting a smaller dirt bike, pretty soon I won't need one at all. But for now, we're going to have fun. Oh, they always put the jumps right before a curve, or except this one where you can't see where you're going to land. Ah! Not taking that. Come over the top to see a boulder field underneath you. Oh, that would not be good. Woo! This is a very forgiving motorcycle for its class. Ooh, I feel drops of rain. You look too nervous to wave. I always think that. People that won't wave at you, it's not because they're on a Harley or something. It's just because they're afraid to take a hand off the handlebars. They haven't reached that level yet. But as far as the Tenere goes, I love this bike. If you're looking for it to ride 20-30 miles and go off trails, what Ben's on it might be a better option for you. But if you want to do a little bit of traveling, you know, hopefully keep a little dry in the rain and have some wind protection, this is definitely the bike. I'm going to take it up to Copper Harbor in a few weeks. That's like 5.5 hours, and I guarantee I'll get there and stick my stuff in the hotel or at the campsite and head out to some trails they have there, because it's a comfortable bike. Can't really comment on going out west on it yet because I haven't done it, but I can't imagine it's gonna be disappointing. My Versys would probably be, I know my Versys would be a better bike for that, but I'm gonna take the Tenere, something different, and you know, not set the same expectations for mileage a day. Just take it easy like I should be anyway, which I never do. Always got to get someplace, got to get someplace. That's got to stop.
How'd your bike get so dirty?
When I was talking, I said, Ben's trying to keep his bike clean. I'm not. And then I just went through all these nice puddles. Riding with a YouTuber, it's tough. He puts a lot of work into these, a lot of work. I don't think I'd have the patience for it, or else I'd just put out really crummy videos like this one. But no, great bike, love it, would buy it again. You know, it's a lot more work off on the trails, but it's a challenge too, and something you can't expect to go from a 250-pound enduro to a 500-pound adventure bike and just go out and ride it. There is a learning curve of do's and don'ts. A dirt bike, honestly, you just throw it around and tell it to do whatever you want, and a lot of times with an adventure bike you more ask permission, you know, would it be okay if we did this, and got to listen to the bike. But yeah, it's a great machine. I get a lot of satisfaction off of taking this off, satisfaction from taking this on trails when you do it and do it right. But yeah, that's about it. So thanks for watching, suffering through it. Stay swanky, get out on those roads or watch some more videos. God bless.